Not holding up well for his age, not still solid. Better, his numbers since turning 40, more assists, more rebounds, a higher field goal percentage, actually surpass his MVP season with the Miami Heat in 2013, when the entire basketball world considered him to be in his absolute physical prime. Go ahead and sit with that. The man is outperforming his own prime at 40 years old in the most physically demanding professional basketball league on the planet. And the NBA, the league, the media, the analysts with the highlight shows looked at all of that and decided the story was about work ethic. Sure, okay, because here's what nobody wants to say out loud in a league now worth billions of dollars, with television deals that make small countries look financially underfunded. The difference between LeBron James at 40 and every other 40-year-old who ever played professional basketball isn't just discipline. It's a system, a science, and a budget that most players in this league, let alone outside it, will never come close to accessing. And every single piece of it is completely, perfectly, boringly legal, which is either the most impressive thing in the history of professional sport or the most quietly uncomfortable. Only 21 other players in NBA history have played into their 40s. None of them averaged more than 14.6 points per game at that age. LeBron averaged 23.5, 61% higher than second place. That isn't an outlier. That's a different category of human performance entirely. And the question nobody is asking, the one the league has zero financial incentive to answer, is exactly what is powering that. Because it isn't magic. It isn't genetics alone. And it definitely isn't the same $20 tub of creatine sitting in every other player's gym bag. This is that story. Let's start with the strangest fact in modern American sport. Every major league has had its reckoning. Baseball had the steroid era, a period so chemically enthusiastic it required an actual US congressional hearing to process. Players in suits, swearing on Bibles, explaining with remarkable creativity why they had never touched anything suspicious, while their necks told a slightly different story. The NFL, suspensions, scandals, enough amphetamine history to make a pharmacist sit down and breathe. Cycling, Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France 7 consecutive times, and then spent years explaining with admirable persistence why none of those victories had happened quite the way they appeared to. And the NBA? There has never been a performance-enhancing drug controversy in the National Basketball Association. The league has survived, reputation intact, while every competitor burned. Which, on the surface, looks like institutional virtue. Look a little longer, and it starts to look like something else entirely. Because while those scandals unfolded in other sports, NBA players were quietly getting bigger, faster, more durable, extending careers to lengths no previous generation had managed. And the question, the one that would make everyone in a very profitable ecosystem deeply uncomfortable, never really got asked. What exactly is powering that? To understand what's actually happening inside NBA locker rooms, forget the box scores for a moment. Meet two players. Player A has a supermax contract, over $50 million this season. His team employs a full-time sleep specialist, a sports biochemist, a private chef, and a performance nutritionist with more peer-reviewed publications than most tenured professors. Every morning, Player A follows a precisely calibrated protocol. Specific supplements, specific doses, adjusted weekly based on his individual blood work. His recovery data is tracked in real time by a system that costs more than some small college athletic programs. Player B is trying to survive. As of the 2024-25 season, NBA players earn a minimum salary of approximately $1.2 million. G League players, the ones one phone call away from an NBA roster spot, earn approximately $40,500 for a 5-month season. $40,000? 5 months? In American cities where rent alone can consume a third of that. G League players face commercial flights at 2 a.m., below average accommodations, and training schedules that would exhaust someone with twice the recovery infrastructure they have access to. Player B doesn't have a sleep specialist. He doesn't have a biochemist. He doesn't have a protocol. He has a phone, an Instagram algorithm serving him supplement ads from brands he can't verify, and approximately zero budget for anything that doesn't directly pay his rent. Both players want the same thing, an NBA roster spot. One of them arrives at training camp with a biological advantage built by a team of PhDs. The other arrives on a red eye, and the jump ball happens like they're on equal footing. Now, what are we actually talking about? Because this isn't a story about mysterious compounds or underground labs. This is a story about substances you can buy at any pharmacy, online, or, in one particularly satisfying case, in the baking aisle of your local grocery store. Let's start there. Creatine. A New York Knicks coach estimated back in 1998 that roughly 50% of NBA players were already using creatine regularly. 1998. Sit with that. A generation before the sports science revolution, before biohacking became a lifestyle brand, before sleep coaches existed as a professional category, half the NBA was quietly loading up on a supplement that most people still associated with bodybuilders and the supplement aisle of a GNC they'd never visit. The research is clear. Creatine improves high-intensity performance by replenishing phosphocreatine and ATP stores in muscles, improving strength, power, and explosive output. For a sport built entirely on explosive cuts, contested jumps, and physical battles under the rim, that's not a marginal benefit. That's a foundational one. It costs $20 a month. But taking it correctly, calibrated to body weight, training load, season phase, and individual physiology, requires a level of knowledge and oversight that $20 doesn't come with. That's where the cheap supplement becomes an expensive operation. Caffeine, not your morning coffee, not even close. A 2022 systematic review found that pre-exercise caffeine intake in basketball players increased vertical jump height, improved sprint times, and enhanced multiple performance indicators during simulated games. For a 220-pound NBA forward, this means a precise milligram dose timed to exactly 60 to 75 minutes before tip-off, calibrated to his individual caffeine sensitivity and his body weight. Get it wrong, jittery in the third quarter, crashing when it counts. Get it right, sharper reaction time, reduced pain perception. Better focus in the fourth quarter when the game is actually decided, operating at a different frequency than the opponent who grabbed whatever was in the locker room cooler. One of these players has a scientist managing that protocol. The other has a Celsius energy drink and optimism. The full stack. A 2023 double-blind placebo-controlled study with trained basketball players showed that a pre-workout combination of caffeine, creatine, beta-alanine, citrulline malate, and BCAAs produced significant improvements in jump performance, agility, and anaerobic output compared to placebo. Everything in that stack, completely legal, available online, no prescription required. The gap isn't in the substances, the gap is in who knows exactly what to take, when, how much, and why, and who's guessing. Here's where the story shifts from interesting sports nutrition into something that raises genuine questions about what competitive fairness actually means. In 2025, the supplements, the creatine, the caffeine, those are accessible. $20, $30. Leveling forces in theory. What isn't accessible is the infrastructure surrounding them. Podcast host Bill Simmons stated publicly that LeBron James spends approximately $1.5 million per year on his body. When asked directly about the number, LeBron neither confirmed nor denied it, responding only, "I've heard this crazy notion about how much money I spend on my body each year. I kind of just chuckle. That is a number I will not disclose." Which is exactly what you'd say if the figure was accurate and you simply didn't want to make it a conversation. His publicly documented routine combines percussion therapy, cryotherapy, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, sleep optimization, and precision nutrition, all managed by specialists whose sole professional purpose is keeping one human being performing at an impossible level. The hyperbaric chamber deserves a moment, because it perfectly illustrates the distance between what the science says and what the marketing promises. The honest answer from researchers, the evidence for hyperbaric oxygen therapy in healthy athletes is mixed. A systematic review found no definitive proof that these chambers help athletes recover faster, reduce inflammation, or improve sleep quality in any consistent, measurable way. Most reported benefits are subjective. The athlete feels better after using it. And here's the part that always gets left out of that debate. Perceived recovery matters enormously in elite sport. An athlete who believes he's recovered plays with more confidence, absorbs contact without flinching, volunteers for the extra defensive rotation in the fourth quarter. The psychological architecture of elite performance is completely real, even when the mechanism is contested, and LeBron James, having spent what is reportedly $1.5 million per year on that architecture for over 2 decades, is still in the NBA at 41. You can argue about the mechanism, the results are harder to argue with. The individual player is almost beside the point now. What's been constructed around elite NBA players in 2025 isn't really a support staff. It's a biological optimization corporation wearing a basketball team's jersey. LeBron surrounds himself with chefs, dietitians, sleep coaches, and sports scientists. He tracks sleep cycles and recovery load data with the same obsessive precision he once used to study opposing defenses. Sleep coaches let that register. There is a credentialed professional and with a graduate degree, a salary, and presumably health insurance, whose entire job is to make sure another human being sleeps correctly. And before that sounds like excess, A 2021 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine found that poor sleep measurably increases injury risk and negatively affects mental performance in NBA athletes. Sleep isn't comfort. Sleep is where the body repairs the micro-damage from every sprint, every collision, every contested jump. Optimize it, and you're not just resting better. You're compressing recovery timelines, creating more functional days in a season than your opponent has. Over 82 regular season games, plus a playoff run that could last 2 more months? That's not a marginal edge, that's a structural one. Invisible, accumulating, compounding week after week. And an MIT study published in 2025 found that each additional data analyst hired by an NBA franchise corresponded to approximately 1.25 more wins per season. Teams investing in the infrastructure of performance, not just talent, were systematically outperforming those that didn't. The best teams in the NBA aren't just buying better players, they're buying better science. And the gap between what a $50 million player's team can afford in that science and what a minimum salary player has access to is not a gap you can close with effort. In 2017, former NBA head coach George Karl published a book called Furious George. The book created immediate controversy for several reasons, most of which had nothing to do with what we're discussing here. But buried inside, between the settled scores and the candid player evaluations, was a passage that reporters read, quoted briefly, and then moved past like it was too uncomfortable to stay with. Karl wrote, "It's obvious some of our players are doping. How are some guys getting older, yet thinner and fitter? How are they recovering from injuries so fast? Why the hell are they going to Germany in the off-season? I doubt it's for the sauerkraut," he went further. "We've got a more thorough drug testing program than the NFL or MLB, which we always brag about. But we've still got a drug issue, though a different one than 30 years ago. And this one bothers me more." The NBA's response was swift and diplomatic. Commissioner Adam Silver stated, "I have no reason to believe whatsoever that we have an issue either as the result of testing or as the result of other information that comes to the league office. I have no reason to believe." That sentence is doing a lot of work because it doesn't say the problem doesn't exist. It says there's no evidence reaching the commissioner's desk, which, given how the testing program is actually structured, may be less reassuring than it sounds. Per the collective bargaining agreement, NBA players are subject to a maximum of 4 random urine tests during the season and 2 during the off-season. Players can also be tested for HGH via blood draw, but no more than twice per season, 4 urine tests per season, in a sport that runs from October through June, and experts in anti-doping have noted for years that the spacing of those tests, combined with the way microdosing works, taking substances in amounts small enough that they clear the body before the next scheduled window, creates room for sophisticated users that a limited test schedule simply cannot close. Karl didn't name names, he didn't present evidence, he offered an observation from 40 years inside the league, and the league, politely, professionally, said it saw nothing. Which, when you consider who has the financial incentive to look, is a response that raises its own questions. Let's go back to player B. He's talented enough to be in this conversation. A system that eliminates thousands of athletes before they ever get close to a professional contract doesn't let in people who don't belong. His athleticism is real, his work ethic is documented, but this season he will play 5 months of professional basketball for $40,500. After taxes, rent, food, and travel in an American city, what remains for a supplement protocol, for individualized blood work, for a sleep specialist? The math answers itself. And here is the cruelest irony that nobody in the NBA media ecosystem seems particularly interested in discussing. The player with the least resources, the most pressure, and the highest stakes, the bubble player, the G-leaguer grinding for a call-up, is also the player most likely to navigate supplement decisions entirely alone, without expert guidance, without verified products, without anyone checking that the label matches what's actually inside the bottle, because the supplement industry in the United States is not regulated like pharmaceutical drugs. A product can be marketed as containing one substance while carrying trace amounts of something banned, mislabeled by a manufacturer operating in a space with remarkably loose oversight. If player B accidentally ingests a contaminated supplement and tests positive for a banned substance he didn't knowingly take, the suspension is his. The career damage is his. The burden of proof is his. Not the manufacturer's, not the league's, his. Several NBA players over the years have faced exactly this situation. Some successfully appealed, others did not. And in nearly every case, The players who had sophisticated legal and nutritional teams around them navigated it more effectively than those who didn't. The system rewards those who can afford to get it right and quietly punishes those who can't for mistakes that richer, better supported players are structurally protected from making. The NBA has no doping scandal. The players are bigger, faster, and more durable than any generation before them. Injury recoveries are faster, careers are longer, the science is sharper, and the money, flowing into the bodies of the people who already have the most of it, keeps compounding into advantages that the naked eye cannot distinguish from pure, God-given talent. None of it is illegal. All of it is an advantage. And the line between elite preparation and biological inequality is, at this point, less a matter of ethics and more a matter of budget. A league where the most physically extraordinary athletes in the sport are tested 4 times per season by a program that anti-doping experts have called inadequate for detecting sophisticated modern methods, where the players' union, doing exactly what unions are supposed to do, negotiated limitations on testing that protect player privacy, but also, incidentally, create windows that a knowledgeable and well-resourced athlete can navigate with remarkable precision. Where a veteran coach with 4 decades of inside access wrote that the problem was obvious, and the official response was essentially, "We see nothing." Where the richest players on Earth have armies of PhDs optimizing their biology legally, while players earning $40,500 for a 5-month season are making supplement decisions based on Instagram ads and hope. Maybe LeBron James at 41 is simply the greatest physical specimen the sport has ever produced. Maybe the gap between him and everyone else is genetic, natural, inevitable. Or maybe it's the compounded result of a $1.5 million annual investment in legal science, deployed with surgical precision, sustained across 2 decades by a support system that most players in this league will never have access to. Both things can be true simultaneously. The league would prefer you assume it's the first. The evidence invites you to think more carefully about the second. And the NBA, the most profitable basketball operation in the history of the planet, with a new television deal worth tens of billions of dollars, has no financial incentive whatsoever to help you figure out which one it actually is. Which, when you think about it, might be the most revealing thing in this entire story. The next frontier isn't supplements, it's genetic data, real-time biometrics, recovery technology that doesn't have a public name yet. Some NBA teams are already there, but that's a different video.